Good Sunday morning, folks. Sunday breakfast with the coach coming at you. So we'll just wait till we build a bit of an audience. And then, as usual, we'll get into answering your questions. And I have some things to say, and we will chat away. So hopefully you guys will be on board soon. So far, I'm all by myself. So we'll wait for you guys to get on board. Sunday breakfast with the coach, ask me anything session. So I want to talk to you about a few topics that come across my desk this week, a few questions and answers that came across the podcast, things like that. And again, we'll get into that as the audience builds. So if you're on board already and you want to ask a question, by all means, feel free to do so, and we'll get right to it. But yeah, I wrote a few things down that I'd like to discuss as well, but I'll wait till the audience is bigger so that we can have more interplay about those things. So yeah, we're just getting ready to get all you guys on board so we can get started. So let me know you're out there and throw some thumbs across the board, or if you want to let me know where you're checking in from, that's fine, and kind of things you want to talk about, that's all good too. So we seem to be building an audience. Started slow, but we're building fast now, so glad you guys are waiting on me. So a couple more Sunday sessions before we'll be taking a break. So yeah, I wanted to get across some things that have been on my mind. What an industry this is becoming. More full of crap than truth, and unfortunately people like me are trying to unravel the crap without getting emotional about it. Sometimes that can get pretty trying, so especially at my age where you're all about cutting through the garbage and getting to the heart of the matter. So yeah, so morning folks, I'm glad people are showing me you're out there, so good. If you have some questions, and we'll get to them. I'm waiting till we build a bit more of an audience before I get on my rants. But yeah, so if you want to squeeze in an early question right away, you certainly can. And we'll get started with that. So hopefully the people that are on board already know who I am, and you've checked out my books either on Amazon or at scottabelfitness.com, or my various courses, Program Design Masterclass or the Cycle Diet, which is at thecycle.diet. That's not a .com address, it's just a .diet. The Cycle, all one word, .diet. Very popular course online, as is the Program Design Masterclass, all about the importance of program design and things like that. So important stuff for sure. So we're almost at a point, we're reaching double digits, so that's good enough for me, and we can get started. So any questions out there that are pressing on? Anybody out there want something answered immediately? And then we can just get going to it. So yeah, good to have people on board. Everybody must be waiting for me to talk this morning, so I only have a couple of comments and some shy people. So yeah, I want to get to a few things. Every week I seem to get email correspondence, either based on my podcast. My podcasts are Smarter Sculpted Physique. And then I'm just sorry, I'm reading some comments coming in. And I just get emails in general from people that have heard stuff online, or they've read stuff that sounds logical that maybe isn't, and they just have questions, or they're in a bit of a sticky situation, so things like that. Janine asked me if there are benefits to CrossFit, or do I dislike it entirely? Well, I mostly dislike it entirely. I mean, there might be benefits to anybody doing anything depending on where they are at in their current fitness profile and their background in terms of how fitness fits their lifestyle. But this is one of the examples I wanted to talk about, Janine. So it was almost like you and I, got together before I went live to talk about this. So if you heard my Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast with JC Santana, then you know our thoughts on CrossFit. Not a fan. It violates most of the principles of exercise physiology. It's dangerous, and needlessly so. It makes no sense if you understand the principles. So along that line, it was funny because, let me find where I wrote this down now, because I was so pissed off I had to write it down. I just happened to be channel surfing the other day, going through the channels looking for something engaging to watch, and there's a reality show called My 600 Pound Life. And it's, of course, a life about overweight person, people, whatever. It's not something I follow regularly, but I stopped on it because there was a clip, of course, with this person who's massively overweight doing exercise. Now, the 600 pound, my 600 pound life, okay, someone trying to get their life more healthy, blah, blah, blah. And what did they have this poor creature doing? She's in a CrossFit gym doing CrossFit. Now, I don't know how many of my listeners know what CrossFit's based on, but it's basically based on high-intensity lifting, etc. Now, these CrossFit Kool-Aid drinking trainers are all smiles and, oh, I'm on TV. Deer in headlights kind of look, not knowing what the hell they're looking at. Just, again, running people through the program, because that's what CrossFit does. The people fit the program. The program doesn't fit the person. So here's someone 200 or 300 pounds overweight doing recline bodyweight pull-ups, little shuttle drills, blah, 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 all these things. And I'm just thinking to myself, if this isn't the most obvious common sense example of stupidity in personal training, I don't know what is. I would have loved to have called into that show and said to these trainers, why don't both of you tie a 100-pound dumbbell, one around your waist and one around your shoulders, so that you too are also carrying 200 pounds in excess weight, and you do this class. I mean, it was about the dumbest thing I had ever seen, that they don't even take into account who is my client. What does my client need? When I have clients that are that obese, I use their body weight as resistance training. I might have them just walking on a treadmill for 4 or 5 weeks just to get used to the discipline of going to the gym and moving that kind of weight around, because it's like dragging a dumbbell around all the time. And here are these morons in a CrossFit gym, smiles on their face. Ooh, we got more clients, and we're on TV with people who are massively obese. And don't forget, in a previous episode of Breakfast with the Coach, I told you how that former Biggest Loser trainer, Bob, whatever his name is, had a heart attack doing these kinds of workouts, because he was in big favor of CrossFit style workouts, whatever that means, and he had a heart attack doing it, and he's supposedly upper echelon fitness. And you have these people on a show called My 600 Pound Life, and they, just because they walk into your CrossFit gym, you think it's a good idea that they do your training? That makes no sense to me. You're completely ignoring who is my client and what are their needs. All right, you don't have a client with 200 pounds or more to lose doing CrossFit style workouts. That's just stupid, okay? Just and beyond stupid. And I would have loved to have been able to call in and told those trainers, why don't you tie a 100-pound dumbbell around your waist and one around your shoulders, and then you do the same workout, and tell me how consistent you're going to be with that. Tell me you're going to keep showing up day in and day out doing that kind of workout. You know, the only thing that's going to help someone with a 600-pound life is something they can do regularly until they have a 500-pound life, and then a 400-pound life, and then a 300-pound life. Big picture, folks. But no, we're so in love with our training system at CrossFit that you can come through the door at 500 pounds and we got something for you to do. That's just stupid, okay, on a massive scale. But it made it on TV, so I wonder how many people called in to do those workouts. Makes no sense to me at all, and it pisses me off because it violates everything that you should know if you're going to call yourself a professional in this industry. And yet these CrossFit trainers are all like goofy deer in headlight smiles that they're on TV and pushing another client through a workout. Well, maybe someone who's living a 600-pound life shouldn't be pushed through a workout. Maybe they should be encouraged in a right way through a workout and not exhausted by one. And when the workout I watched, and I had to turn it off before I put my fist through the TV, the workout I watched, no way that person's going to be consistent over time and showing up to do that. So these trainers or whoever ran that never did consider that these people walking through the door, being 200 or 300 pounds overweight, are already carrying a massive amount of external resistance. They don't need to be holding on to dumbbells. They don't need to be doing shuttle drills. All right, they need to move and they need to breathe. All right, so it just shows me how dunsified this industry has become. that everything is all about shiny new objects, stuff that people on TV can stare at and be impressed by, but none of it being helping a client get to a better reaction. So that I really wanted to get off my chest. So thank goodness for the question there about CrossFit. And if you listen to the podcast with JC Santana, then you'll see what we both think of CrossFit, which isn't too much. All right, just because something gets popular, this industry, I've been around since the late 70s, folks. I've seen every Vogue trend in the world come and go, and everyone defend it because it's popular, till it dies a natural death, and then they pretend they weren't ever part of it. So we see that again with low-carb dieting, comes around about every 5 years, and it's just silly. So, okay, so what do I want here? Any questions there? Let me see here. I'm trying to click see more. What was it about J.C. Santana's work that clicked for me? The expertise that came across in his books, that he was true expert. He didn't have to make a claim of it. He didn't have to brag about it. He wasn't trying to be everybody's hero. He wasn't trying to say that his methods were superior. He talked exercise physiology, and he talked it in real terms. And someone else who's an expert can identify that, and that's the problem out there, that it takes an expert to recognize an expert, and that's sad for the consumer in this industry. So that's too bad as well. So let me see if I got another. Do I set my clients up on calories, or do I set them up on macros? I don't do either one, actually, Chad. If you saw the Facebook Live with Andy and Jordan this week, we don't do macros. We start with basic principles of the metabolic compensation system. Don't forget there's a difference between an expert in nutrition and an expert in metabolism. To study and be an expert in metabolism, you study things like internal medicine and endocrinology. You don't study nutrition. Nutrition is an important element of study, but it doesn't make you a metabolism expert. We started the Facebook Live on Thursday. You can go to YouTube and watch that. But I started by making sure that everyone listening knew, neither Andy nor Jordan knew how many calories they take in a day. They don't count grams of carbohydrates. They don't know their macros. This is all the lunacy of this industry, trying to create illusion of control with all of this nonsense. Some of the complicated nonsense I saw yesterday from supposed wannabe expert online with intermittent fasting and then a carb day and then 3 days of high fat no carb. It was just so ultimately confounding. It made no sense at all, whereas the truth is actually way, way simpler. So let me read you one of the things I also wrote down. You guys are helping me today because you're feeding into what I wanted to say. So one of the other things I wanted to say is that to recognize expertise, the difference between the wannabe expert and the real expert is that the wannabe expert seems to always be trying to outcomplicate the people he considers to be his competitors, all right? But the real expert, all right, is the one who is busy trying to hone and simplify his own methods, even if he uses the methods of employing the methods of other fellow experts to do so, all right? So again, that's the difference between the real expert and the wannabe expert. If someone that you're reaching out to for help tries to make you think that this is complicated formulaic stuff that involves a lot of fancy math that only he can figure out and a bunch of macros that only his brain can assign to you, then you should move on. The whole idea of this is that someone can give you something where you can map out and have it last you a lifetime, all right? So if something's going to be that complicated, then it's not going to be sustainable. So those wannabes who try to outcomplicate their competition, they're not going to last long in this industry either. But they're going to eat up the initial consumer base who's impressed by shiny new objects, who's impressed by mathematical equations and formulations, ones that don't mean a whole much if you understand the metabolic compensation system. The body is wisdom in and of itself, and that's what I try to teach. So that's pretty important. Jock asked me, in Physique After 50, do we use the pumping cadence or the explosive cadence? You use a little bit of both, Jock. When the sets are of 5 reps, that's limit strength reps, so you want to concentrate on a slow eccentric, and then the intent to be explosive on the 5 rep, the sets of 5. That doesn't mean the bar moves quickly. That means the intention of contraction is to be explosive, a BAM kind of thing. And then the rest of the movements are all with that pumping cadence. Just watch Pumping Iron for that. Yes, Tracy Lynn says, my understanding is I still have clients weigh their portions. How is that different from counting macros? Well, because they don't count the calories. It's not like saying, if I say have 150 grams of chicken or turkey or whitefish, they have 150 grams of chicken, turkey, or whitefish. They don't worry about the caloric difference of that. All right, so that's how it's different. And they don't worry about the macros. I don't have them, and I don't have them weigh everything. Things like veggies, fibrous veggies, things like that. I mean, fruit. When they're eating fruit, I don't have them weigh fruit because fruit comes in, two medium-sized apples are still going to be different sizes. Am I really going to stress them out about how many grams of carbs that is or how many calories? Oh no, they're going to have to cut the centerpiece out of an apple. It just gets too silly. So, what book did I write on metabolic compensation? Probably. Hang on, Chad. Let me see. Probably first this book. I don't know if you can see it. Understanding Metabolism. All right. Understanding the truth about counting calories, sustainable weight loss, and metabolic damage. You can also read Metabolic Damage and the Dangers of Dieting that I wrote. You can get that on. And the precursor to Understanding Metabolism is a book I wrote called Beyond Metabolism. So you can look at those. You can also look at my book called Permanent Weight Loss. So as you can see, Chad, I've been writing books about metabolism and sustainable weight loss for a lot of years, and that means I've read a lot of books. So, it's interesting to me that this fitness industry is still bogged down with its own nonsense, and they keep reading nutrition books thinking that leads to an understanding of metabolism, and it doesn't, all right? Just yesterday when I was leaving the gym, I was putting on my shoes and chatting to the girl beside me who was also leaving, and she was just getting off the cardio, and I said, oh, it's done for the day, and she said, no, I've got to come back later, and I thought, why would you come back later? And of course, she's competing in the local show here in 3 weeks, so typical thing, her trainer has her going twice a day, simply because it's 3 weeks out. Nothing to do with her physique, nothing to do with her body. Oh, it's 3 weeks out, now I go 7 days a week, twice a day, and I've cut my, if you saw my Facebook Live on Thursday, I mean, how long has Andy been in ripped cover model shape since you guys have been seeing him on here? Years and years and years. We don't do anything drastic because he's 3 weeks from a photo shoot. I mean, this is the kind of insanity that looms in this industry, that there's magic in time window frames and things like that. These are people who don't understand the human body. For a good example of that, don't miss tomorrow's Smarter Sculpted Physique with my former client Desiree Walker, who's now a dentist, has her own dental practice. She calls herself the Ninja Dentist. Don't miss that Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast. There's a lot of great stuff in there. Finally able to get a woman on the show too. So is Beyond Metabolism what I would recommend as a first read? Depends where you're at, Sherry. Yes and no. I don't think you can go wrong as a first read with any of my books. I don't think they're really meant to be sequential. It's just that Beyond Metabolism I wrote first. Understanding Metabolism I wrote after, based on the questions and feedback I was getting from the book Beyond Metabolism. So we ended up calling Understanding Metabolism a prequel rather than a sequel. But they're both good. So is Permanent Weight Loss. So is the anti-diet approach to weight loss and weight control. So as you can see, I've written a number of them. And Metabolic Damage and the Dangers of Dieting as well. So so hopefully you've got that. But it's very, very important that you understand these things. So let me see. What else did I write down for you guys? Also in terms of not just the nonsense of CrossFit, which hopefully you now all know my opinion on that. I got an email from a lady who wanted my help this week, and thanks, Chad. Someone just bought one of those books, so I appreciate that. Helps knowing that when I'm on here, people are actually, digging in and believing in the things I have to say, as long as I'm making sense. So I got an email from a lady who wanted help with program design, etc., etc. And I'm going to read part of her email to you, all right? And I'm going to get you to try to sink in something else that's very, very important to me, all right? We keep hammering the message to personal trainers and coaches that you're in the fitness business. You are not in the fitness business. You are in the service business. Get that through your head. Your job is to service the client, all right? Now, along that line, I got a letter from a person who struggles with weight and has been struggling with weight for a long time. So here's part of the email she sent me. I signed up for a year of training at a local commercial chain gym. My trainer saw a lot of potential but put way too much pressure on me to meet his suggested weight goals for me. He gave me tons of conflicting information every week that I went into the gym in terms of nutrition. Toward the end of the year, anytime my weigh-in was a little off and not what he wanted, at my next training session he would either give me a lecture or give me the silent treatment. Going to the gym for me went from being a highlight of my day at first to being a huge source of anxiety, and I ended up quitting the gym mostly because I didn't want to have to see my trainer every time I worked out. Shame, shame, shame on these wannabe trainers, all right? This trainer was so preoccupied with her progress, all right, on the scale, that the whole stress of it all ended up fueling her binge eating. So before she even quit the gym, she realized the stress of going there because of this trainer and his expectations of her ended up also fueling her binge eating, all right? That's not personal training. That's not servicing a client. That's expecting the client to service you because you're going to want to impress all your fellow little gym trainers of the before and after picture that you're hoping to get from this person. Shame, shame, shame. All right? That really ticks me off and fries my bacon, all right? These types of so-called trainers are more about how a client makes them look than about how effectively and deeply they truly help a client. Sadly, some of the trainers don't even know the difference, all right? You can help a client whether they lose no weight at all. You can help them feel worthy. You can build their self-esteem just that they're being active, being in the gym, doing something to feel better about themselves, regardless of weigh-ins and tape measures, which shouldn't even be part of the equation if someone's overweight. They're already self-conscious enough about those things. Why can't you people see this, you trainers out there? Why are you putting people who have body image issues, self-esteem issues, self-conscious issues associated with their weight, why are you putting tape measures around them and putting them on a weight scale? Stop the nonsense, all right? Treat your clients the way you want to be treated. Help them, all right? Stop judging and measuring them. That's not helping them, all right? And that's my lecture for today on that. That email pissed me off. All right, because it never ends, and I see this stupidity all the time. You want to help someone, okay, fine. You can have someone, and you can any monkey can starve a willing participant into a 12-week transformation. Big deal. So what? What about the long term, helping this person feel better about who they are, building their self-esteem, making them feel good about themselves, being less self-conscious around other people? This bogus personal trainer, who I hope won't be in the industry very long, made this person feel even more self-conscious about herself in the presence of other people. Shame, shame, shame. All right? That just ticks me off. There should be some kind of test that personal trainers have to pass rather than these bogus certification things about safety and about sets and reps. Remember, you're not in the fitness industry, you're in the service industry, and a client doesn't pay you to serve you, they pay you so you will serve them. So stop the insanity out there, all right? Nonsensical. So hopefully that gets through to some of you guys out there, and yeah, that breaks my heart too, Sherry. It's a sea of ineptitude out there passing for certified. All right, and a lot of these gyms, they'll just put any warm body in a personal trainer shirt, hoping to gather, someone else's money, and it's shameful and it's disgusting. And unfortunately, if it was just incidental, I wouldn't have anything to say about it because I would know real expertise is the majority. But real expertise isn't the majority. Marketing is the majority, and that's sad. So we see people who get dropped through the cracks, and then they give up. And unfortunately for a lot of these people, when they give up on the fitness regimen, they're really giving up on themselves. And that's unfortunate, and that doesn't have to happen if someone is just a little more aware. Same thing with that 600-pound life. Oh, that made for great TV copy, walking into a CrossFit gym and being 200 pounds overweight doing a CrossFit workout. But it has no common sense value at all in terms of sustainability. So, yeah, that's my lecture on that for today. Yeah, okay. Can you use corn cakes in your hard gainer solution meal plan? Sure. Yeah, I love rice cakes and corn cakes. It was funny because a while back when I was still training competitors, someone walked up to one of the competitors that I trained who had just won the contest and was, oh, like, what do you eat and this and that? And as soon as my client told this person everything he ate, which included rice cakes, they assumed that they were just lying and didn't want to give away their secrets because they were so, they were so Kool-Aid emphasized with industry nonsense of low carbs and stuff. They couldn't believe that someone would eat rice cakes. Ooh, it's so high glycemic. Ooh, it's so... But if you look at the ingredients in a rice cake, whole grain brown rice, and that's it. And one of the things we know when we try to teach simplicity in terms of diet strategy, anything with less than 4 ingredients on the label, if it's healthy whole food, is fair game. So a lot of the other things about rice cakes is people who are challenged digestively with bloating, cramping, constipation, things like this, stress levels. Things like rice cakes are very easy to digest. So again, here's all these people with this nutritional knowledge but no common sense in terms of how metabolism and digestion works. So we often use, I had rice cakes this morning for my Sunday cheat day breakfast. Mind you, I put cookie butter on it, but I mean, that's what I use. So yeah, I know Sherry's just expressing some frustration with the trainers out there. Yeah, I mean, you'll see even in the boot camp classes, you'll have 25-year-olds up to 45-year-olds. But who's doing the assessment? What if someone has bad shoulders, bad back? What if someone's not in the best health? Why are they doing the same exercises? Just because you can downsize an exercise, they still have to keep up with the pace of that workout, which might not necessarily be right for them. So. I'm not sure what you're asking, Jock, about the I, Y, and T's for shoulder health. Are you talking about dumbbells or TRX? I, Y, and T factors. I'm not sure what you're asking me there. What about white rice? Good question. As long as it's long grain rice, it's okay. The quicker the rice cooks, the more processed it is. So if the rice is really quick cooking, short grain rice, then that's like the kind of white stuff you want to stay away from. But if it's long grain rice, then jasmine, basmati, anything like that is just fine. So I prefer the brown rice. That's just me. I like the nutty flavors of whole grains. Oh my God, whole grains! Am I ever out of touch? So yeah, that's very, very important. So hang on, I got a question coming in. Yes, rice is easy to digest. Rice is just, folks, in all of Asia survived because they used, as I've said before, if you study the history of nutrition and culture, we see that how culture survived was when they had starch staples across culture to survive with. And all across Asia for hundreds of years, rice was what allowed people to survive. Okay, so all this nonsense about starches being the enemy is clearly a confounding, contradictory form of information, as is skipping breakfast and doing intermittent fasting. It just goes against common sense, and I don't care what the research has to say. The research will also come back around. What people don't understand, these research chasers are like lawyers who chase ambulances. People don't understand research also goes in vogue trends and comes back around. I let research inform me. I don't let research dictate to me. And that's the value of being someone who's been in an industry, at the top of an industry for 4+ decades. I know what works. I don't just discard four decades of experience because some new piece of research says it might be in question. That to me is insane. But that's what the wannabes do. They hop around, they pinball around from one piece of research they can post on their social media page to look intelligent, And then, 2 years later, you go back and they're doing the exact opposite again to look intelligent based upon some kind of vogue research. And then they say that they are the science people. Well, there's a difference between science reliance and a solid methodology. And, how many times have you heard me say, I've never seen a coach on the sideline of any sport that wears a lab coat. All right, so we need to get away from this hiding behind science stuff. There's still the art of coaching and the art of program design and the art of diet strategy that needs to be considered, okay? So that's very, very important. Yeah, sometimes Tracy's just saying diagnosed with celiac a couple years ago, and rice and gluten-free oatmeal, sweet potatoes saved her life. And after thinking she couldn't eat starches for years, she was just eating the wrong ones. And I would say that you become intolerant of those foods by avoiding them. Your stomach gets weaker at digesting them, and then you put them back in, and you get tested before your stomach has had time to enzymatically strengthen back to those foods. So people get falsely diagnosed with celiac even though they don't really have it. They've just been avoiding those foods for so long, and we see this especially among the competitors who cut out starches near the end of a show and then they try to put them back and their stomach's playing colon hockey, and it's just because their digestive system's so weakened by all the limited foods they've been able to not eat and told not to eat. I mean, and why doesn't anyone talk about the levels of constipation that go on with a no-starch diet? I mean, it's insane. And the bloating and the distension. Oh, that sounds healthy. Way back when, and you guys aren't historians, but historically, when we talk low-carb diet, Atkins is the one who brought that in. Not only did he misreference most of his research, but along with the initial Atkins diet, you were supposed to take up to 60 different supplements to offset the foods that you weren't allowed to eat on the Atkins diet. Now, that makes no sense to me at all. Nature provides. So follow the prescription of Mother Nature, and you do pretty well. So, yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't. When we had Jordan on the show on Thursday, and you can go to YouTube to see that, or just back through my Facebook feed. Again, he talked about last year, before he was with me, being on a low-carb diet and the damage that did to him systemically, muscular-wise, cosmetically, digestively, his lack of strength, his lack of mental acuity. It just messed him up in all kinds of ways. And now here he is, with me, and he looks better than he did at his contest, and he's still got over, 5 weeks, and he's having a cheat day. So, that kind of thing. This is where the expertise in metabolism comes into play. So, unfortunately, there is a lot of bogus trainers out there as well. So, that's very important. So I'm glad I got a couple of those rants off my chest. Is there anybody else with a question or a comment? And a lot of people, yes, when they go to a low-carb approach, they don't associate the sleep disruption that goes along with that. And again, these are your body is trying to communicate with you when it's not happy. And sleep disruption is one of the ways it does that, whether that's through emotional and mental stress and strain, or physiological, digestive, nutritional, emotional stress and strain. So it's amazing to me how many people go low carbs and will deny their own body's wisdom, trying to tell them, we don't like this, I don't like this, please help me. Sleep disruption, someone's just writing in, brittle nails, hair falling out, and then you watch these competitors who didn't get out of fitness competing in the physique industry, females, and you watch them 20 years later, you go online and type in the names of people that I know from my era, they're now all wear wigs on stage. They can't even wear their own hair anymore. How is that a worthy trade-off? That doesn't make any sense to me that someone could reconcile those two things, that your body is that damaged, that you're going bald from the thing you're participating in as a female, and somehow that's worth it. I mean, I don't understand that kind of logic, to just take your body for granted like that, because you only have one, and it's going to have to last a lifetime. So, I left that world specifically because of how much it changed when I was in it, and how much of a drug subculture it became. So I had to get out of that. So The Hard Gainer Solution video course. It's a while away yet, Bronco, because don't forget there's 80 workouts and we're shooting every single exercise of those 80 workouts. So we're a while away from having that ready yet. But first is going to come Andy's Awesome Ab Circuits. So we're getting ready to release that. It's got diets, it's got Andy's meals, it's got all the breakdowns of the training and the circuits he actually did to get his abs, which he doesn't even have to do anymore to keep his abs. So that's a very important thing as well. Which books I'd recommend for training for us who are above 60? Okay, well, Daniel, good question. Been working out your whole adult life. Well, there's 2 books I wrote that go together, Physique After 50, and the follow-up book to that is The Aging Proposition. Physique After 50 is all about, what happens as we age, that you can't, all this, like, 50s is the new 30s and the new youth and all that stuff. Bogus marketing claims your body's going to change. You have to accept that, be real about it. What can you do to slow that down? What can you do to maintain health? So Physique After 50 is about that, how the relevance of resistance training through research shows that resistance training is far more effective in your 50s than is any kind of cardio. It's not even close in terms of the research. If you want to turn back the effects of sarcopenia and things like that, then resistance training is the way to go. But you have to have a program, okay? Most people don't even know what a program is. So that's Physique After 50. And then The Aging Proposition is the follow-up book that talks about the mindset of aging healthy, right? What about the mental and emotional fitness of being a member of what I call the Platinum Club? Screw the golden years. I want to be a Platinum Club member, right? So it talks about all of that stuff. So, that's the kind of thing you want to abide in. And I'm going to talk about that. Riss, I have no... what's my opinion on paleo? I'll get back to what a lie paleo is in a minute. So I don't have a very high opinion of paleo either. Cutting out certain foods, that's great. You feel healthy for a while. But paleo is actually a lie, because if the actual real and true experts on Paleolithic man will tell you that they are actually proof of a lot of the carving tools they had and the way they were eating back then did have starches in their diet. That's the way they survived. And they weren't lean because they were Paleolithic man. They were lean because they were starving to survive in the pursuit of food and how many calories it took to pursue and procure food. Paleolithic man didn't have refrigerators and microwaves and ovens. All right, so and the pursuing, hunting, and gathering was very energy consuming. So it's basically a lie to mislead people to say Paleolithic man had it right. He was very athletic looking. No, he was starving. He was hungry to survive. We don't have that problem. So that makes absolutely no sense. The whole foundation of Paleolithic man is based on a fundamental lie that they didn't eat those kind of carbs. They most certainly did around the world. And you can go to TED Talks and find a lot of Paleolithic experts talking about that as well. So let me talk about the aging proposition for a minute, because it came up in one of my podcast interviews. I had a great podcast interview recently with Krista Scott Dixon from Precision Nutrition, who's a PhD in women's studies, which is one of the reasons I had her on. And we got talking about body image things and things like that. And, started asking me what it's like. I have Andy on my show every week, usually shirtless, because I'm trying to make a point that he's always in shape, because people don't tend to believe those things. And when I have him do exercise demos, you can see what's working. So it's proof in the pudding. But then the subject came out about people with body image comparison issues, and I just always scratch my head on that, because I don't have that, right? I don't see any value, and this kind of thing is talked about in my book, The Aging Proposition. I see zero value in pining over things I can't have, or longing for things I used to have, like a younger physique. My youth is way behind me. My expertise isn't. All right, so my best physique days are gone, but I've been there. I traveled the world because of my physique. I got to see things other people didn't see. I was in all the magazines, okay? So I let that stuff go. I don't look at Andy and be envious of Andy. I respect Andy. I don't envy him. I like being me, where I'm at in life. All right, I look at Andy's physique and I respect it because I know what it takes to have it and to keep it. Right, so that's one thing there. But I don't long for it. I don't compare myself to it at age 56. To me, that makes no sense, and that's just going to make people depressed, and that's just wasted ego energy. I don't want to waste. Almost all ego energy, folks, is wasted. Why not invest in spiritual energy? All right, let's talk spiritual fitness. You'll hear me say this in my podcast all the time. Too many people out there in this industry are doing things in the spirit of fitness, but pay no attention to the fitness of spirit. Okay, that to me is fundamental in personal growth if you want to help somebody, right? So I don't waste time in ego energy. I had my day in the sun. I wouldn't trade the physique of my youth for the wisdom of my age for anything at all. I'm probably the happiest, most contented person that I know. All right, that doesn't mean I don't have challenges and things that go on, but I don't envy what I can't have or what I used to have. That makes no sense to me. I live in the present in a world that's so full of abundance. I'm too blessed to be stressed. All right, so it was an interesting conversation, and if you get a chance to listen to that podcast with Krista Scott Dixon, very smart woman who has a lot of my respect, and I was happy to meet her. So that's an important distinction to me, and here's how it happened. Ironically enough, if for those of you who don't know me, my background is in sociology and social work, and I think that's what separates me from other coaches in this industry, is I have that counseling background, and I counseled everything from juvenile delinquents to marriage counseling, while my interest on the side was bodybuilding. So I have a unique background that way, and that's why I always say we're in the service industry, and communication skills are essential, right? But here's what was happening, and this is why I brought it up with Krista Scott Dixon on the podcast, because it was interesting to me as a sociological phenomenon. You all know I have Andy on the Coach and Andy show every Thursday, and Andy's shirtless and he looks great, and everybody drools over him, as they should. He's a specimen, right? There's no denying that. But when I have Krista on the show, sometimes we go live with a young lady named Krista who helps me out for some projects we're doing for the ladies. Well, I have got emails always when it's about Andy saying how motivating he is. It's great to watch him. People find that really motivating, blah, blah, blah. And some have written me about Krista saying the same thing, but others have written me saying when they watch Krista, they end up feeling bad about themselves. Females. Never males. So they watch Krista and they like what she's doing and she's so pretty and everything, but if they watch too long, they start feeling bad about themselves. So this is where myself and Krista Scott Dixon, the PhD in women's studies, got into a whole sort of body image thing. So for me, it makes no sense to me to be pining after something I can't have. People used to joke to me, one of my basic comebacks during my whole career was people would walk by me and say, "Wow, you look good," and I'd always say I traded to be good looking. Or I'd say I have to look good if I can't be good looking. It's just a way of laughing at yourself and being okay with everyone else. I train some really top level models, beautiful people who you can't deny are beautiful people. So why would I feel bad about me because someone else is beautiful? It makes no sense to me. So, there's some of the things I want to get across to you that are beyond, are beyond just simple matters of, reps, sets, calories, grams, things like that. But that paleo question, I've stopped talking about paleo. I've written about it. You can go to my blog at scottabelfitness.com and search through the archives and find some articles I've written about intermittent fasting and paleo and breaking it down to why it's gimmicky and that kind of stuff. So here's another question. When Andy was bulking up, what kind of workout did he do? Well, he wouldn't do a workout. He probably went through several workouts. Don't forget, Andy's been with me now for 13 years. So the first couple of years, as we talked about in the last live session, he bulked up. That doesn't mean he stuck to one single program. He would go through the adaptive phase of a program. Anyone who's with me knows that I don't think you even reach the mastery phase of a program until about 9 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks. So he probably went through 3 or 4 programs from back then. You'd be better off asking him what programs they actually were, but it's always based on assessing where he's at with his current program, and what he needs to do next. So we were just talking yesterday. I took Andy out sightseeing because the weather's nicer now, and he hasn't seen many sights in the area. And we were just talking on how the last time I had him do any kind of cardio was way back in 2007. So he hasn't done any cardio since then. And stay tuned for tomorrow's podcast on Desiree Walker and how she got her pro card with me by eating carbs and doing no cardio. So you want to listen to that as well, ladies. So things like that. You know, I got a funny line from one of my clients. Maybe he's out there this morning, but in his weekly biofeedback check-in, he's talking to me about his workouts and how he's feeling and everything, which is what you have to do when you check in with me for a coaching check-in. And then one of his last lines was, he said, "Oh, and I missed cardio again this week." He said, "That's 2 years in a row now." And I just started laughing because we don't have him, of course, doing any cardio either. And he's also ripped with abs and things like that. So let me see here. At 58 years old, is training to failure on the odd set in a while still beneficial? I say no, Mark. I mean, that's just, I've gone full circle. Don't forget, I made my career off my body for a very long time, hanging and banging at the highest levels of intensity. And I would think post age 50, you really want to go out of your way to protect your joints. I believe I'm pretty emphatic about that in my book, Physique After 50. So you'll want to look at that. Let me just see if I have it here. Yeah. So here you go, folks. All right. Here's Physique After 50. All right. So you'll see. All right, oops. All right, you can order the paperback or you can order the download. And then the follow-up that I was talking about, the aging proposition as well. All right, so you can get these at scottabelfitness.com or on Amazon, right? So Physique After 50 and the aging proposition, I think you'll benefit from reading both of those. One is physical and one is more about, aging spiritually, mentally, psychologically, that kind of thing. So, good question. Who was the target exercisers for Andy's awesome abs? Good question. I would say anybody who wants to train their abs to be tight and toned year long. Of course, diet goes along with that, but it's a different kind of training. Like I said, it's how Andy got there, but he doesn't even need to do abs now to stay there. And I think there's videos in the course that discuss that. And it's circuit training, so it's for people who want to do metabolic training, but focus on one specific area. So that's important too. So can someone in Physique After 50 do it? Yeah, I suppose someone could. Ultimate Figure program, it would depend. The Ultimate Figure program, there's 3 versions of it. So there's the full version and 2 dialed down versions. So if someone's doing the dialed down version, then yeah, you could do that. For people who don't know, my Ultimate Figure program you can find on Udemy, Udemy. It's a course, all right? It breaks down for women how to train for an Ultimate Figure. Coach, is a weekend seminar in Kelowna possibly in the near future? I don't think so, James. I think I can reach more people by doing live sessions, putting stuff on YouTube. My Smarter Sculpted Physique, I mean, how many people do I need to reach? My last workshop was in 2010, and it took a lot out of me. And so yeah, I don't think there's as necessary. I don't think it's as necessary anymore to do it. One of the things I did want to do was sort of a getaway kind of thing in my favorite place, Aruba. I wanted to do kind of a workshop thing, but more of a holistic, factoring in diet and training and things like that, in an Aruba setting, because there's a lot of stuff I would do right on the beach, just to remind people how to think better, do better, be better, that kind of stuff. So we've looked into that in the past, and if there's some interest in the future, we might send out a questionnaire on that and feel out the interest level on that. But Aruba is also my own sanctuary, so I kind of like to have that time there to myself as well. So that's very important. So and Mike's just saying he recommends the Udemy Ultimate Figure course to people, so that's good. Like hearing that as well. So, and you have to remember, folks, something about diet mentality and diet psychology. You take people like you see Trevor Timmons in my on my YouTube video doing workout number 17 from the Hard Gainer Solution, and he's been on my Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast twice. Here's a guy who globe trots more than 200 days a year, more than 3 or 4 time zones in a week. And the way he looks at things, you look at someone like quarterback Tom Brady, who's chosen a very, very rigid and strict diet in order to prolong his career because he's aging. What you see these people do different is they don't look at how they eat as denying themselves. They look at it as I don't want to. I don't want to eat those foods because I'll be better if I don't. So you see the element of choice is empowering. The element of denial is not. It's disempowering. If you're always battling urges that you think you're deprived or you're in denial, then eventually emotion will trump rationality. And that's one thing people have to learn, and you should write down. Emotion trumps rationality. So you can only be logical and rational for a while, but in the presence of your trigger foods or trigger moods, all right, if you live in that deprivation psychology, you're going to give in. So the element is the element that you have choice, and that is what is empowering. You have to remember that, okay? So that's very, very important stuff. So, yeah, so good questions coming in today. So I'm just wondering, we got one comment there. Another comment from Velma, the Ultimate Figure course is amazing. So there you go, ladies. You can go to the Ultimate Figure at udemy.com. We might actually be moving that to its own website as well. But yeah, it was very popular in its day, and then now we made dialed down beginner and intermediate versions of it as well. So, so it's very important. But keep that diet mentality, diet psychology in mind, because that's going to determine whether you're successful or not. If you see Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays as torture and a battle mentality, then that tells you that you're in the wrong mindset, okay? And mindset determines behavior, not the other way around. So you might win one battle by going one weekend and you didn't cheat and you're patting yourself on the shoulder, but that's just the battle, all right? The whole idea is to not be in the war to begin with. And that comes from sound thinking, not stinking thinking. We got to get out of the stinking thinking, all right? And that's something that coaching can do. Gradually persuade your mind to get into a new thinking habit, right? So that's very important as well. Appreciate all the hearts out there. And just by a show of comments, hands, thumbs, or hearts, if we did have some kind of retreat, 1 week long in Aruba, something like that, how many of you would be interested in attending something like that? It would be expensive, of course, because you would be flying to Aruba, staying in a hotel, but it would be a retreat, so there would be a lot of social time, things like that. Something I've been wanting to do since my last workshop. It's just the right environment for it because it's such a quiet, peaceful island. So a few, not as many as it would take to make that financially viable, because we'd have to pay for a lot of people's time to be there to participate and set things up and all those kind of things. So a few people would be interested, but not enough right now to make it a go. But you can always write Mike at scottablefitness.com and express an interest, and who knows, maybe we would get there someday. So any other questions before I tie this up? So remember, go back to the beginning, check out what I had to say about my 600-pound life and the nonsense of CrossFit. And shame on that personal trainer. And I hope people out there who have been victimized like that by personal trainers don't internalize that as being on you. That's someone who really is not good at their job and doesn't know what the hell they're doing or what they're supposed to be about. So you need to know that. If you need a coach to get outside your own head, get a coach. I'm all about that, as you know. So don't miss, if you get a chance, tomorrow's Smarter Sculpted Physique episode with Desiree Walker. And in the show notes, you'll see some pretty incredible displays of athleticism by her as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's podcast. And again, if you have any questions or comments, things you want me to discuss in the future, by all means, please write us, let us know, or save your questions for next time. We'll have one more Sunday breakfast with the coach, and then a little bit of a break. So yeah, let's get to it. I appreciate all the thumbs and hearts, folks. Apparently Facebook really likes that stuff, so the more of those you throw across the screen, the more Facebook tries to reach out to gather other people because they think something important is going on. So that's very, very good as well. So if you are over 50, folks, wear it well, okay? You know, don't settle for golden years. Choose to be a member of the Platinum Club. You know, wear it well. I mean, if you've earned your stripes from life experience, there's no shame in that. There's just glory and wisdom in that. So by all means, please do that. Appreciate all the thumbs and hearts, etc. So again, so Lydia's making a comment about CrossFit and some pregnant woman doing box jumps, etc., etc. So there's Ray, 53 and still going strong. Right on, Ray. I'll be 56 this year, and I like to think I'm still hanging and banging. Can't do it like I used to, but again, that was then, this is now. So it's funny, I saw a clip the other day on YouTube. I was looking for something else entirely, but I saw a clip of Arnold and Franco training together like now, obviously looking very old, and they were doing exactly as I advised in my book, Physique After 50. They were training with machines, all right, and that is better for the joints. So never barbells over 50, just machines and dumbbells. So hopefully that's a final parting comment. And I'll see you maybe Tuesday live with young Krista, folks. Thursday won't be live with Andy. We don't have a cameraman this week. So I'll see you next Sunday. And hopefully, just remember, objects in your screen are much younger and better looking than they appear. So I will see you guys next week.